Ready?
Yeah.
We're here! Hello, everyone! This is Albert Odysseys. I'm Marshal Maiwald, the kind of still Dungeon Master, but former Dungeon Master mainly for Heartwood Heist. These four were my players. That's now over. Say hello, four that used to be my players.
Hello,
Glad to be
four
here.
that used to be my players.
I'm coming
There
for
we
your
go.
throne.
Oh, no.
It's true.
Okay, so tonight we're just really wanting to go into like a retrospective, going into like some of the storylines that we went over, that we might have missed, or for NPCs and things like that. And the way I'm going to start it off is just opening it up. If y'all have questions, what are some questions that y'all have?
I have a suggestion real quick, Marshall.
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe, in case anyone is checking out this video without full awareness, do you want to tell people what Heartwood Heist was and where they can watch the entire series right now?
Yes. So you can watch all of Heartwood Heist on YouTube, all 17 episodes.
Epic episodes.
It was a doozy. There were a lot of just crazy shenanigans that happened during that game. And so many things. Too much. The whole premise of the game was it to be a heist. The players were after a magical item to basically national treasures, steal this item, prevent someone else from stealing it. But then some extra things happened that turns out it maybe wasn't national treasures like, it was some other things. If you want to find out...
Real quick here. National Treasures. The movie is called National Treasure.
Yeah, but he's referring to 1 and 2.
Yeah.
That would be the
National Treasure movies.
Yeah.
If you refer, the series is called National Treasures.
No, it's not.
It was kind of like that, but if you are interested in that, you should go check them all out. All episodes 1 through 17 are on our YouTube channel, and you get to see all of our fun, beautiful faces do a bunch of chicanery.
You don't have to pay attention. You can like do your homework and just have us playing in the background. I feel like you would get a better experience out of it if you were only half listening.
I'm still struggling with the comparison National Treasure, because I had it more in my head that this is more like an Ocean's 11 kind of situation that where everything just kind of came together in ways that at the end they're like plot twists, and like 72 hours ago this was happening, and it's like things that you couldn't have known that just kind of blew your mind, because that's the twist and turn level that existed in Heartwood Heist. I'm just saying.
Actually, I think honestly, it was the Rick and Morty parody of Ocean's 11.
I was going to say it seems more like Pink Panther.
Pink Panther. I think Pink Panther. That's
a good one.
Yes. So I'm opening it up now to the 4 players, or anyone who comments in the chat. Feel free to ask questions whenever, and I'll answer them as quick as possible.
We're going to force Marshall to make YouTube shorts to answer any questions.
I was about to say, it's funny that we're recording a video
what you're volunteering for.
He's just is Marshall just saying that he's just gonna like predict the future and just see the comments that will come?
Yes.
No, we're putting Marshall on Cameo, and so if people ask questions, he'll record the answers that way and send it to them. If you have questions, please go to cameo.com and search Marshall and submit them on there.
Just Marshall. You'll find it.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Marshall underscore DM.
Now you have to go make a Cameo profile.
No, I'm not making a Cameo profile. Put it in the comments.
I guess I'll start with a question for you, Marshall. That I'm sure you didn't know was coming because we didn't talk about it beforehand. In session 1, and then I believe that one of these characters showed up again once or twice, but you introduced 2 characters. So if you haven't seen Heartwood Heist, I don't know why you're still here. This holds literally nothing for you.
Spoilers ahead.
If you need a refresher, my character, Beef, was a small business owner. It was not as small of a business by the end, but he owned a gym, and there was a character, Percival Plotz, and I think some like mob enforcer that worked with him called the Jaw, who was offering to like buy up my land and other businesses in the area. And that plot kind of just didn't go anywhere because I think I maybe missed some stuff there, or just other plots took over. What was supposed to happen there?
So the two people you mentioned, Percival P. Plotz and Joey the Jaw Jankowski, he was a loan shark / bookie, and Percival P. Plotz
characters there. That alliteration.
Percival P. Plotz was a part of the Platinum Plaza Enterprises.
That's also a Stan Lee term.
No,
I love
Enterprises is
coming up
with a P.
True. Penterprises. And
So you get 5 of them. Penterprises.
Your co-owner and your best friend, Rodrigo Allerson, never really came up at all. He only came up in the very beginning.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
Forgot about your own best friend?
And
we became his best friends.
The funny thing was, Rodrigo was actually a big plot point for Beef, because that made Beef not a, and you correct me if I'm wrong at all, JT, led to Beef becoming more of a pacifist because he ran into a bear and he killed a bear to protect his best friend.
Yes, in fiction, that is the only time before the start of our story that Beef has like exercised violence against another living thing.
Yep. And Rodrigo Allerson was terrible at keeping up with his money and took out way too many loans, and he took them out from loan sharks.
Oh.
And that was the Jaw. And the Jaw was teaming up with Percival P. Plotz because Percival P. Plotz was trying to buy out every person on the street to build this massive plot and turn it into supposedly a mall. And who knows what would have happened with that mall if it somehow happened. I certainly don't. I actually do not. It could have something could have happened from it. But the whole point of them was to lead to possible foreclosure of the dragon.
You know, we couldn't have known about it at the time, but there was going to be some major destruction of property that happened shortly after that, where he probably could have bought up the whole prison complex that got like blown up real cheap, and that would have been big enough. He could have done his mall over there. I mean, maybe that we could like incorporate that into the next the next little area.
Heartwood Heist 2
spin-off.
Yeah. The Jaw was going to come and jump you, Beef, when you were by yourself and fully just wreck you. And
he was going to try.
Wouldn't happen.
Possibly wreck you. He was going to try with a few goons that weren't going to be super strong, but he was pretty strong. And who knows what would have happened? From there, the rolls could have been terrible. Wherever that could have gone. But the idea was for foreclosure of the Ascendant Dragon and trying to lead towards seeing what Rodrigo was doing and taking the plot from there. That was the main idea.
I see.
Interesting.
Yeah. You have more questions from that at all? Or no?
I'm just kind of absorbing it. Because I think what happened is that as the story kind of established itself, Beef became a much more family-centered character, and we just didn't really have time to explore relationships outside of the party and siblings.
Yep.
And so it makes sense that never really came up, but it always felt to me like Plotz was going to show up at some point and just make things bad.
Yeah, that was the hope.
Speaking of family entanglements, I just want to compliment. I guess this is for everybody that there was enough interesting stuff happening with each character between like Dawn and the syndicate stuff that was happening that we got little bits and pieces of and then Austin with your character's mom and the whole Faye thing, and then you went through like 3 or 4 transformations during. I mean, your character arc was wild, right? And like I said, Beef's exploration of characters, and I remember thinking throughout the process that I had built Haukin to be kind of a loner, but I kind of had in my head that he might be that there might be opportunities where I could like magically have a connection, because I was a loner. That I was like on those serial TV shows where the main character like knows somebody from 20 years ago, and it's like, when did this loner ever have time to develop relationships with anybody? But that's where some of my connections would come in, and didn't really develop that. But Haukin was aware of all the family connections that everyone had going on, whether they were mafia family or whether they were actual family. And I just thought that was an interesting way that it all got blended together. So, for those of you who do go back and watch all that and listening for the little bits and pieces, it was really masterfully done, I think, by both the players and by Marshall.
Thank you.
I do want to just point out that something that you mentioned earlier, Glint's many transformations. For anyone who hasn't seen it yet, Heartwood Heist could basically be subtitled Glint has a terrible 4 days.
The no good, terrible, good for nothing bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the specific session number? It's like session 5?
The one where the change
session
happens,
5.
the first...
Well, there were a few of them, but there's
the initial change.
There's one specific moment that I remember at the end of session 5 that I feel like there's a moment in every great D&D campaign where the bottom kind of drops out and you're still having fun, but it's not lighthearted anymore, and you realize, oh, this
Something
world that I'm investing myself in has stakes and things can happen. And I think session 5 had that for a lot of us, that it was like the moment we all realized, I guess in a in-world level, oh man, bad things can happen. On a meta level, oh man, Marshall's not pulling any punches.
Yeah, Marshall told us when we were making our characters this was supposed to be a comedic game. And for the most part it was, but it didn't stay that way.
It's not say that way. It had some twists and turns.
Yeah. The something that stood out to me, something that you were saying, Jeff, about people that you were gonna randomly know. You and I did talk about that, and I had plans for that in different areas. Y'all had just never wound up going in these areas, and I was like, how could I randomly make someone know him? I could have just been like, oh yeah, let's go for it, but it would have been difficult for some of the people you were meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how do I do this? And there are different times if you would have gone into the why am I blanking on the gang's name? Give me a second.
When B pulled that power punch, when
which time
for the Tipplewinks.
When
y'all were going into the Tipplewinks.
Yeah.
If you would have actually entered into there would have been a whole posse that you would have known.
No, the posse was a different crew. That was
Pygmy
Posse and then the Tipplewinks. So
I do have to
been a whole
share.
group you would have known.
I do have to share that the first time Marshall ever showed Shane and I the map for Heartwood Heist, the first thing I said to him was, Marshall, what are the Tipplewinks? The first thing I had to say was making fun of that name, despite the fact that I do think the map was very fun. I think the world was very interesting to explore.
Congratulations, Marshall.
But the first thing I ever said was making fun of the Tipplewinks.
Which is fair. That was kind of the point.
Well, as I mentioned that, I wasn't trying to imply that Haukin did not enjoy his own character development. Yeah. Just that I noticed how masterfully everything was kind of woven together. I really liked, to highlight some of Haukin's stuff. That whole path to enlightenment thing, and being able to along the way, you kept asking from a game mastering side of things, like, hey, what would you like your character to do? How would you like to develop? And I felt like there was some great character development for Haukin, and learning to try to develop his own monk path, subclass kind of stuff. And I ended up loving Mario and Luigi, how that turned out, and then the gifts and the boons that we were able to do that kind of supercharged us later in the game. That was tremendously fun. So
I was not fully certain where I was going to go with the way of the cat when you first brought that up to me, and when you were first trying to go into like meditating off on the docks and stuff like that. I was like, okay, how do I bring something in here? And then I was like, wait, he just keeps trying to go into cat-like things. Let's just add a cat to come out of nowhere. And then you just kept rolling well with interacting with the cats, and then there was just the cat mob. It was like, here we go.
So on a personal level, there's something that I don't know how well you guys know this, but I'm not a huge animal ownership person. I'm nothing against animal ownership. We've had dogs and cats and rats and fish and stuff over the years that my kids have had, but I've never really been. My wife had a cat when we first got married, and after we had our first kid 23 years ago, we I think rehomed the cat because there was an allergy or something. Anyhow, so haven't had cats our entire marriage, right? We just hit our 28th anniversary, and so cats not. But a couple of years ago, my youngest daughter was like, "Dad, I want a cat." I'm like, "That's great. You can have a cat." And she's like, "I can?" I'm like, "Yes, as soon as you move out and get your own house, because I don't want a cat." And it was just this joke that Dad is against cats, and I was adamant we were not going to get a cat. So anyhow, we have a cat, and the cat's name is Bug Bunny. My wife and I refer to him as Lucifer because he just, I mean, as a lot of cats do, they go through that little scratchy, bitey phase when they're kittens, and he did finally grow out of it. But anyhow, I have a friend on Facebook who lives out in the country, and she has like a bunch of cats that are like barn cats and stuff like that. She's like, Jeffrey. She's an older lady. She's like, Jeffrey, you're going to love those cats. You're going to be in. And so she's constantly posting memes of how dads fall in love with cat. Didn't want a cat. And then it's like a picture of the dad with the cat like on his shoulder or something like that, sleeping. And she's like, that's you. And so the further we got into this and the more I was having to do cat stuff, it was just like, it's happening.
You are becoming the cat.
The way of the cat has happened.
Shane, if I were to share my screen, what are the chances that we could show that on the recording?
I mean, we could do it. I think we would all get our videos would get small though.
Okay. Is it not worth it?
I don't know what you want to show, so
I'm wanting to show. So Jeff was talking about the way of the cat plot line that Haukin went through, and if you don't know, I do the thumbnails for everything Owlbear Odysseys, and my thumbnail for the session that kind of came to fruition, session 9, is one of my favorites that I've ever made for this channel, and I wanted to share that.
Well, at the very least, share it in the chat because I want to see it now.
Oh, absolutely. But it is something I did every now.
Out. It's on YouTube. What episode is it?
It is session 9.
Session 9.
But something I did every now and then is I would hide little secrets in the thumbnails. Sometimes secrets that even Shane and Marshall didn't know about. And in the Way of the Cat thumbnail, there is a beef in the corner because I made a joke during that. They did know about that one. But I made a joke during the session because there's a scene where Haukin's at the beach and like Marshall says, dozens, hundreds of cats have come up to you. And I joked, beef is there and he's just purring. And so I put a very faded beef in that thumbnail just to allude to that.
Those were good times. Are there
other? I put it up. It's covering us now. Beef.
Oh, good.
The spectral beef is in the top right corner.
Yeah.
I love it. That was such a good moment. Are there other questions for some of the storylines of NPCs or the world or anything like that that y'all have?
I got one. Um, the library.
Mm.
All right,
Oh.
remember the
Ooh.
library attack?
Mhm.
I forgot her name, but it was the archfey that we fought,
Sylvanora.
Sylvanora, right? And we were. It felt like we were hopelessly outmatched for a
Mhm.
time. 'Cause she was getting like I think she was playing with Baldur's Gate haste rules, and it was terrifying.
She was
Uh,
teleporting all over the place, wasn't she?
right? I think I almost died twice. I think. But
Yeah.
anyways, and we ended up killing her. But what would have happened if we didn't kill her?
Ooh.
She would have been in the final fight.
Mm.
So it's a good
as
thing
a
we did.
villain?
Possibly. There were multiple paths for that ending. Y'all could have effectively taken the anklet off of her without killing her, and she would have joined y'all.
Just
And
one
y'all would
more
have
foot
had
we would
an
have had to cut
ally.
off.
Y'all would have had an ally on the inside
Mm.
that she could have. I was trying to give some possible ropes for having someone on the inside to be able to do anything for y'all and find out some secrets.
That would have been a
But
very Ocean's 11 moment if we had a mole the
Yeah.
whole time.
but the other thing, y'all could have run away, but it was very hard to see that because she could not have left the library. She was not
Mm.
able to.
Ooh.
But we didn't
She was not able to
know
leave
that.
on her own volition. So, because she was commanded to stay in the library.
Interesting.
But that's perfectly fine. Y'all wound up surviving and beating her, which is very impressive because I made her very difficult.
Right.
We also got another T-Rex adventure out of that. So
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Those were good times. I loved all of the extra names for polymorphs and the
Yes.
wild shapes.
I love the
Those were all good times.
consistency in the
Wagon.
variety of names.
yeah, it was
Glintosaurus
interesting.
Rex.
It was interesting how well I could throw Dawn into just a bird or animal name. How frequently it kind of worked.
What was everyone's favorite? Mine was
The
definitely
dongle.
Dongle. Yeah.
Dongle.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dwagon gets like a honorable mention, but I think Dongle takes the cake.
Dongle takes the cake.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's
Yeah.
unanimous.
Are there other questions that y'all have?
Oh, I briefly brought this up before. I kind of forgot about Alfio after he got after he gave us his a hand. Did he just like give up at that point? I mean, if someone cut off my hand, I'd probably be like, I think I'm out. Let me go live life somewhere else, some way else.
He ran to oh, why am I blanking on his name?
John Cena.
He he ran to Lucan.
Hold on,
Not Lucan, my bad. Eldrin. He ran to Eldrin Che,
of the
which
Feyche?
was
Yeah.
of the Fey Che.
Ah,
Which Eldrin, little bit, even though no one's asked about it, Eldrin was being compelled most the whole time, and he ran to him. The other thing was Thalendor. Thalendor was constantly posing as different top members of each
Once you
gang.
know. Huh.
And y'all ran into him on 4 separate occasions. And if y'all would have started something, y'all could have lost.
You mean we couldn't have beaten Thalich Door with his 9th level spells, before our multiple buffs?
And he was teaming up with he was basically the intermediary for Lysanthier the whole time, because Lysanthier could not directly intervene with some of these gang members. So Thalendor was connecting everything for him. And Thalendor did get away because y'all weren't able to go find his phylactery.
Right.
So
His
also
phylactery.
Season 2, his phylactery.
Mm-hmm.
But little things.
Yeah.
And Alfio, after he got to Eldrin, he did get buried away. And by that I mean literally he got ferried away, and he got taken to a demiplane somewhere and is currently in hiding because he is scared that Dusk is back.
So he did exactly what you would have done, Shane.
Yep.
Season 2.
I have one, Marshall. Because there's a character that became a pretty significant NPC that I am pretty sure was not in your plans to begin with. I want to know your side of the story when it comes to Fizzlespark.
Yes. I was going to ask about Fizz and Tink.
Yeah, Fizz or Tink?
Well, both.
I want to know about, because Tink was, well, I don't remember which of us came up with Tink, but Tink was like, pretty established pretty early on, and then Fizz kind of got thrown in. Was Fizz planned, or were you just like, they already have a connection with this and I can introduce a brother? What was the whole story?
Fizz was planned. He was an option. He did not have to be the option. I wanted to give multiple ways to be able to help y'all get into the Fae Court, and Fizz was one of them. And that was the path y'all wound up taking by interacting with Tink so much. And Tink and Fizz were not necessarily supposed to be brothers. And then I was like, not realize I made them both gnomes. All gnomes are brothers, right?
Oh, Marshall, don't get us canceled. You can't say things like that.
It was more so because of what they both did. They were both already chaotic in my mind because they're my NPCs. I'm chaotic, so they worked out well. And
so there were your self-inserts into the game. Is that what you're saying?
A little bit,
yeah.
But
having DM'd for Marshall, yes.
Pink came up because JW's Beef was so interested in his block, and y'all were trying to go find some interesting blacksmiths and other things like that. And so he appeared. Then Fizz was already planned, and he was ready in the prison. Huskin was planned as well, but uncertain where he would be. Little things like that. And I knew that these characters were here. I just didn't know exactly where they would be fully. Fizz, I knew he was in the prison. That was automatic because the Fae Court said screw him and wanted to hide him away. But then it got blown up because Lysanthier needed that to happen. Lysanthier was a part of the big goose gang, though. Lysanthier was there. Not Lysanthier. Thalich Door was there.
Yeah, he was ready. We looked at that and said, nope.
Y'all ran away, and Thalich Door was like, nope.
Literally running away, and we ran away really well. I was surprised at the movement speed that we were all able to, whether it was just actual running on the monk side, or whether it was transformations and clever magics that teleported and stuff. But man, we were booking it.
I was impressed that Beef
Door.
managed to basically like run straight in, pick up Fizz, and like run straight out.
There were several sessions that ended with Marshall either saying like, after we had quit recording and the group of us were talking, or like texting me later and just being like, hey, thanks for burning my plans. Because Beef was just such a direct character in a lot of ways.
It was fun. And they leveled up because they effectively got away from a deadly encounter. So it was for good
We're
times.
learning.
Y'all are learning.
So we ended up at level 14, right? So
yes,
was there potential that we could have gone even higher before the final encounter? I mean, did we miss some opportunities for some major?
Y'all could have gotten to level 16.
Okay.
I could have gotten the next level of spells.
Yeah,
we messed up.
There were
I could have
6
gotten a fighter
combats y'all missed out
supplies.
on. There were 6 combats that could have been in there, and that I had like fully planned out. But y'all were just like, no, we're gonna be smart about this. And one of the examples I can think of, y'all took a whale and said no.
One of them was also the last combat.
The last combat was supposed to be 2 separate combats.
Yeah, that's
but
what he's
y'all
saying. We
finished
skipped
it
one
in
of
one.
them.
Yeah.
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 Which I think worked out great.
It did. But yeah, y'all could have wound up being level 16. Some of the other fights were going to be like really small, subpar. Y'all were going to be able to flex your muscles, and people were going to be like, holy crap, watch out for these guys. But that didn't come up. Are there other questions that y'all have over like y'all's characters directly connecting to some of the NPCs or other things like that? Or is that all?
We've got 30 minutes. I think we're probably good to move on.
Oh, I had more questions, but I didn't want to take up too much time from other people. Let me ask one more, and then we can move on, because this is one that I
2 things after the questions.
Okay, this is one that I actually really like. I'm very curious about this from your standpoint as the DM, Marshall. What point in the campaign? Because if you've never DM'd, I think the best way to describe it is like you're playing a game of chess, but your opponent doesn't know how to play chess. Like you're playing chess with a 5-year-old who doesn't know the rules.
The rules, right?
And so you like plan out your moves perfectly, and the 5-year-old like picks up their rook and knocks over your king, just because like they don't know what they can and can't do. And so what Marshall in this campaign was the moment, like the most standout moment to you of, I had this plan of how things maybe not were supposed to go, but like how I expected things to go, and we just like whiffed it, or like in some way went off script.
There's a lot of those, to be honest. There were I can specifically think of 4. 2 of the ones that stand out were at the very end. JT, you and I talked about one of them.
Yes.
All 4 of you made a save as you all teleported to the Heartwood. 3 of you were like, no, we get like 7+ above the DC. And I'm like, cool, whatever. And I was, the DC was high. It was a 21. And y'all were like, no. And I'm like, cool.
Paladin aura for the win.
The only one that failed was Beef. And Beef
This was a
in
great
the end
moment.
was like, oh yeah, hey, monks have this cool ability that can just say, screw you, and just ignore being charmed, or being feared, or other things like that.
Right.
Or is it just those 2? Frightened,
It's charmed or frightened.
Charmed or frightened. The whole thing was Lysanthier going to charm one of the players, and whoever they charmed, the bag of holding that he gave y'all at the very beginning was going to magically appear in your hand because it was connected to all of y'all. And then you would have the strong urge and desire to put the Heartwood jewel into the bag, and it would have gone straight to Lysanthier. And no, that didn't happen. So there was that. And then the second time was basically the same thing. Me hoping Lysanthier got away, but Beef is like, no, again. And did all of the attacks and stunned him.
I used up 6 key points.
Key points, right.
To try and stunning strike.
And then I was okay with that because I had already prepped that Thalandor would instantly die to give Lysanthier back all of his health so he could get away. That was a prepared thing because it's a very effective tool that a lich body would die and then they would just respawn later perfectly fine because phylacteries. But I'll just beat him to death again.
Wanna see me do it again?
Yeah. And that's what happened. It was awesome. But those were the 2 biggest ones that stand out to me. There were a couple other ones, but those ones were all of them were awesome. But those 2 things would have ended up very differently.
I do want to say, Marshall, regarding the first one, because like you said, you and I did have a pretty in-depth conversation about that. I think if I am interpreting right, from your standpoint, like you didn't want it to be you didn't want me to be blindsided by that.
Yes.
And so when you were telling me about it, I was like, okay, so, and I was looking at my monk abilities, and I had a sneaky thought, and I go, so, am I charmed? And Marshall had this big back and forth where he was trying to figure out if it would technically count as charmed. And I did run it by Marshall. I said, hey, I have this ability because it was the same thing. I didn't want to be a jerk and pull that out of nowhere and ruin the plans. And so just know that was I talked to Marshall about that. Not everything I pulled, but
there are some times when a DM needs to make the executive decision to further the plot of the story to say, this thing is going to happen. You will succeed no matter what, or you cannot succeed this. But I did not want that for y'all being already powerful beings. I was like, oh yeah, there's a chance. So that's why there was a save. And me thinking that there being a save, you need to be able to say, no, screw you. I have an ability that says, I can't get charmed, boo. Or no, I can just say no to a charm after I'm charmed. So that's where it ended. And it was awesome in the end. But yeah. Are there any other questions before I mention the 2 things that I had? I know, did you, Jeff, have something over Melliflor?
Yeah, so just as far as so Melliflor was somebody who's in my backstory that when Haukin, being the idealistic investigator of enlightenment that he was, that originally when he first came to the Heartwood, that he fell in with Melliflor, and Melliflor, being the con artist that he was, befriended Haukin, and Haukin being the easygoing, this was going to be the irrational, the one person that Haukin didn't like, and I could go out of character with to do something that's like, Haukin, what's wrong with you? This guy pisses me off. Normally I'm calm and cool about everybody, but this guy, right? And so as he showed up in different areas, I was like, all right, how can we play with this? But ultimately, he was kind of a background character, and I was wondering, if what could have happened with Moflor. I loved him in the last battle that I was able to be like, oh, I'm gonna go and try to help him, and he was like, oh, I've got this. Look, it's a fireball, spell or something. I was like, so cool, right? So it turned out to still have some utility. But yeah, what other plans or ideas did you have to be able to incorporate Melflor?
So for everyone's character, everyone's like directly connected NPC that was at the initial trial, they all made rolls after the trial to see if they got snatched up by somebody, and Melliflor was quickly snatched up by Calamdrieltor because he saw that he was very sneaky and conniving, and he was like, that would be beneficial, and grabbed him and started using him to kind of help further some things. But then there were some points like where you could have found him in the world doing some things, and that just y'all never wound up being in there. But the hope that I was going to have with him was he was going to cause just a lot of shenanigans, similar to what happened with Vrank a little bit, but much more negative things put on the party by him just instigating things and saying like, y'all are my friends, you got me, and accidentally bringing like a crap ton of enemies towards y'all. That was going to be like some of the main things that was going to happen, and see if you whatever happened from there.
The friend who leaves the tab in your name.
Exactly. That's him.
Yeah, that fits. I think you played him well because I dreamed him up as having a certain personality. I think that you did a good job of playing out that as an NPC.
Good. Okay, so the last two things that I had was y'all avoiding the one of the another fun fight that I had, which was still cool because y'all did a whale thing, and I had planned for some type of like car chase, boat chase, or like train chase, like y'all being on the train and then y'all just fighting on top of the train or in the train, and it would have been Calamdrieltor's crew trying to stop y'all, but y'all had befriended Cal by that point, so it was going to be Lysanther's backup squad, and y'all were gonna get jumped by them because y'all effectively stole the jewel.
Right.
So he needed to get it back. But y'all were saying whale, 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 and y'all took the whale away.
I think specifically we were saying dwale.
Whale, yeah, my bad.
Dwale.
Then the other thing was Lysanther.
Look what we have, Dweer.
Lysanther getting away. There would have y'all would have been fighting a god, basically. Right below him, there would have been several rounds before he would have exploded with power, basically, and y'all would have had to have taken out basically manifestations of pure magic. And his whole thing, which y'all never got to find out, was him wanting to sever connections. And sever connections as in no one has familial or friendly or enemy-based connections. He would have cut all those off by taking in the Heartwood Jewel because he felt sadness after his sister was murdered and he did not want anyone else to suffer. But that never came up. So,
wow.
In trying to avoid suffering, he would also do. This sounds very therapeutic. It's like we put the armor on to try to protect ourselves from bad things, but we also protect ourselves from good things happening too. And so, if I'm not going to have special connections, nobody will have special connections.
Yeah, that's some comic villain logic. Like,
yeah,
the only way to save people from the sorrow of loss is to make sure that no one cares anymore.
exactly. And that's what was his goal. And he thought it was a very good goal. And that's when Beef asked him, I forgot exactly what you asked, but
So is there any
about,
way
like,
that we can solve this peacefully?
And in his mind, he truly thought yes. He was hoping to be able to create peace. It was going to be a bad peace. It was going to be a very empathetic peace, but that's what he was trying to go for. And yes, dystopia. That's where he was going. Like, it would have been very bad.
Thinking like The Giver.
Yeah. That was kind of the goal. But that didn't have to happen, so y'all stopped it before it did. And then y'all made pure dreams and freedom happen. It was good. But that's all the NPC side of stuff. Thank you for joining for that. So we're going to pause right here. Or say goodbye.
Bye.